I just did some work for a local dealership that has a boring machine of their own, and did some facing work for them because I could come in and do their facing time in half the time. So I'm Bob Woodburn. I own B2 Equipment Repair in Southwest Missouri. Do about all types of heavy equipment repair and maintenance, and line boring, welding, custom fabrication. We pretty well handle it all. I just worked for dealership for almost 20 years and got tired of the politics in the shops and thought that I'd strike out and try and do it on my own. Been at it for 6 months now, 7 months now, and it's gone pretty good. I went straight to work with it. Like, I'd been around and set up Climax enough times and that I literally unboxed it and had a job here that I wasn't necessarily right in front of a customer, but I went straight to work with it. I watched the Reason on TikTok, and I'd seen him boring with them, and I mean, the machines were doing just as good a job as every other machine around that I'd been around. And so I just thought, with the price point where it was and me just venturing out on my own, it worked really good. And like I say, so far I've done, been running them for 6-7 months, and I really haven't had any trouble. Everything's held up well, and the support when I have had questions has been great. Honestly, the only thing on the initial run that came up was I had a problem with the adapter to go into my suitcase for my bore welder. And when I talked to Robert about it, and he had the other one sent out, he just told me to do whatever I could to get it working, and if I could, great. If I couldn't, then the other one would be here the next day. And I think he called the next day and followed up to make sure that I got it. And I said, yeah, I got the new one, and I had the other one working. And he just told me to go ahead and keep it instead of sending it back since I'd got it working. I have called with a few questions on some of the skip welding processes and stuff like that, and had those questions answered right away. Now, I talked to Robert 2 or 3, 4 times before I purchased, and kind of picked his brain about the availability of the machines and parts, because that was kind of a concern that I had dealing with some of the other brands, was availability too. And he assured me that they kept good parts, and knock on wood, I've been lucky and I haven't had to buy any of those parts yet or needed any. Primarily, I have used the Climax lines prior to SPower. I have been around the Sur Mechanica a little and the bore repair systems a little. The price point on the SPower is ultimately what drew me to them, but since I've had them, I think they're just as good a quality from what I've seen so far, and they're a little more modern technology than what a lot of them are. On the Climax systems, they're all started and stopped from a switch platform similar to what the SPower has, but to the best of my knowledge, I've not been around any that had the wireless remote capabilities for starting and stopping. You had to run over to that box to start or stop them. And like changing your feed directions on the Climax, it was a shift of the gears on the feed screw, and it's fine. It's just not as handy a technology as clicking a button and watching it go the other way. I can pretty easily be looking away or setting up another set of bearings while I'm cutting, and with the remotes I can start and stop without having to worry about running back over to start them or stop them. I really like the bar being ported for the measuring. It makes accuracy on boring holes way easier. The facing tool, the setup is faster than any other facing tool that I've seen run. Machine cuts fantastic. I really like the fact that they use the replaceable carbide inserts. You don't lose your spot whenever you're taking a tool out to sharpen it, because you don't have to move the tool to sharpen it. As far as power, I really haven't got into any really big bores. I mean, about 5 inches as big as I've bored so far, but power's been more than adequate for that every time. I could take it straight out to the pickup or straight out to a service truck and go right to work with it, and everything was easy to move around. If I do a job in a customer's shop, it's super easy to unload the truck. I can roll it right into the shop, and I'm not trying to hunt a forklift to carry the stuff in or making 50 trips back and forth to bring every individual piece in.
Yeah, you'd mentioned, I guess, because of the cost and the affordability of a machine, that it might be possible down the road that you might expand and get a second one.
Yeah,
why is that?
Absolutely. I can see that it would be handy, to be able to be welding a set of bores and cutting another, or cutting 2 bores. You almost never do I get into a situation where I only bore 1 hole, or have one set up, and I can see that, my time could be better spent if I was able to use multiple machines. And it would also allow me to branch out and potentially hire someone down the road to run a machine for me, and we could be doing jobs in other places at the same time.